emblematic image from the Dutch 17th century. What we see here is a sailing wagon, actually, which was made by Simon Stevin. Does anybody of you ever heard of Simon Stevin? Simon Stevin was famous for this wagon. He's supposed to be the inventor, although I'm not really sure. He wasn't the inventor. There are older examples known of sailing wagons, but this, like images like this, really gave him the priority. So we say he invented that. I don't think he himself would have been very happy with that, because he made this like as a toy for his patron. His patron was the Prince Maurice of later of Orange, the stadtholder of the Dutch Republic, so the ruler of the Netherlands. To Simon Stevin, he was a mathematician, and he was a very able and good mathematician. He is actually the guy who said Dutch is the perfect language to do mathematics. Therefore, there should be a word for mathematics in Dutch. And well, what is mathematics? It's the art where you always are certain of what you do is right or wrong. So it's the art of knowing things for certain. Wis in Dutch, and aardkunde of konst, wiskunst. This is why Dutch is one of the few languages with a word of its own for mathematics, right? So that was Simon Stevin, and he had this book, and now it becomes fun. And he had this book actually, and this is a different copy than, so this is a different title page than the one I'm holding here. He had this book published with the Elseviers at a certain point. Or, well, he didn't publish it there because by the time it was published, he had already died. So he's like this court mathematician who's inventing toys for his patron, but also doing proper mathematics. When he dies, he leaves this huge collection of manuscripts. One of his sons actually turns those manuscripts into really nice manuscripts, which are offered to the prince as like, this is what my father made, and here you have it, you can have some money. That's how it worked in the early modern times, and he gets money. After that, this book is being prepared to be printed, as you may or may not be able to read, by Albert Girard. Now, this book is published in 1634, and Albert Girard dies in 1633 or 32, I don't know. But here we have one of the few instances where we are certain that a woman contributed to what we call the history of science. This is obviously not real science yet. Science is only invented in the 19th century. But his wife, Girard's wife, finishes the printing process. Like she brings the manuscript to the press and oversees that everything is done correctly. Now, why is this important? This is important because when you publish mathematics, which isn't easy, for that I will take I just picked a page. But as you can see, there are like diaphragms, letters, numbers, all this, and they should all be on the right place on the page. And those guys by the window setting the letters, they don't really understand what they're doing. So somebody else should oversee that all of this is done correctly. That's why it's important. That's why his name can actually be on the title page. It's almost like on the place where you might expect the author's name. And, well, what happens then is his wife's name obviously isn't on the title page. They weren't ready for that, I think, in 1634. But still.